And welcome in to the Friday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Friday morning. Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing all right. Preds got a big win, I guess. Got a win. It's big or bad or whatever you want to call it. Also, Steph Curry dropped a cool 56 last night.
I saw that.
It's going on behind you right now. I mean, the guy is truly remarkable. We should all enjoy him while we have him.
Apparently on this date in particular, like February the 27th, apparently is his day. He's had a couple of monster performances on that day, apparently.
Is that right?
I saw a graphic. So it must be true.
There's a 56-footer he just dropped. 56-footer and 56 points. How about that?
It's pretty good. Keezer, how we doing? What's going on?
Hey, good morning, guys. Doing well. Looking forward to a long little morning here for me, but happy to be here.
Is it longer
double
than normal?
duty?
It is double duty day, yeah.
Okay.
Does that mean that you will be participating in celebrity birthdays laver?
I will be,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Get geared up. While I was taking Caroline to the doctor the other day for her elbow, we went head to head in celebrity birthdays.
Did you win?
She got the last one exactly right. Totally lucky. Most of the time I was guessing first, and then that gave her a clue of what decade we were even talking about. Right. But she beat me by one with a 2-pointer at the very end.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
How about that?
Have some of that, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, let's get some insurance payments out for that elbow. And also buy me ice cream. Okay.
Once you get done with all that, we're square.
Yeah.
Good stuff. We got a lot to get into in the program today. We believe that TD going to be with us later this hour at 6:30. TD out at the NFL Combine conducting interviews and more to come today. So TD hopefully with us a little bit later this hour. Stilly, I saw Stilly in person yesterday, Joe. Ran into him at Bridgestone Arena, and I said, hey, you going to be able to make some time for our show tomorrow, or are you going to go out, gallivanting around to all hours of the night tonight and not be able to show up in the morning? He committed to the program at that time.
Was he? God, mute.
Good stuff.
Was he wearing his beer hat with the 2 straws except with vodka in it?
Put it on yet.
Okay. All right. That's a good sign. If he's not wearing that hat, then we got a chance.
So he told me at 7:00 he's going to be on today. So we'll see. Okay. You don't seem very confident in it.
No, how about, are we going to get both? We get TD and still?
Well,
get TD 6'3", still
that
I
don't
7?
know.
Okay. What gets wild. I mean, we got Vrabel and Kaharski out at all hours at the bar last night. What a joyous occasion.
Well, I had to double check to make sure it was like the real Vrabel account, but it is. Like Vrabel tweeted this out last night. A nice photo of one gentleman in an Ohio State hoodie, another gentleman in a New England Patriots hoodie, and then Kuharski right in between them with a caption that says, Mike Vrabel fan club meeting at the NFL Combine. One of these members asked a lot of annoying questions. Guess who? At Paul Kuharski NFL.
Hey, what are you guys doing? You guys drinking some beers? What a beautiful. I mean, that would be
the first thought that went through Vrabel's mind when he saw Kuharski was it's like, oh God.
One week we're gonna stink and this guy sucks and then I suck.
Hopefully Vrabel was a few pops in at that point. Chilled out a little bit.
It's like, good Lord, he's back. I thought I'd escaped him.
Kaharski throwing appetizers on his tab and stuff.
I'll have some jalapeno poppers. What do you think, huh? Make sure the jelly doesn't look like tomato sauce, please.
There you go. Good
stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
So
mute myself.
Are people going to be there all weekend? Like, are they hanging out this thing all weekend?
For the most part. I mean, I know I always came back I probably came back on Thursday, but
yeah, but you hate the Combine.
Yeah,
there are people that love this thing.
I mean, there are some people who stay for because then it gets into basically the interviews end and it's all just testing. But it's a pretty skeleton crew by the time you get done with the actual availabilities,
Schultz and Rappaport going to be hanging around.
Well, Rappaport will because the NFL Network tries to make the whole thing a compelling television product. So speaking of Rappaport, obviously we had, I liked Schefter's tweet. It's like the best Schefter tweet ever.
Yeah.
Head on a swivel with the
Starbucks logo.
So then something happened with Barkley too. Was Barkley making fun of Rappaport
Yes.
too?
Yeah.
That's good. Good. Well, I missed it. What did he say about it?
I didn't see the entire thing, but it was basically, you remember when it was like the Clippers and they got in like a verbal altercation after the game and they had to call the LAPD, and there's this big clip of Shaq and Charles Barkley just losing it over the LAPD being called. It's kind of similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I got to walk into Starbucks. And Barkley did say at one point, that's why people should just drink Folgers like the rest of us.
That's pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I saw Rappaport made a little Duncan joke too. So
yeah,
so everybody's having fun with it.
Yeah, everybody's having fun.
Fine.
It's good stuff.
I'm not optimistic that this week ends with Rappaport figuring out that he shouldn't let agents actually.
I'm not optimistic
type out
either.
his tweets for him, but oh well.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Hey, James Pierce ran a 4.47 yesterday at the NFL Combine. I know how much you love to get into the nitty-gritty of the testing out there, but 4.47 for an edge rusher, pretty darn good.
No, it is. No, that's a good number. That's a very good number. I'm surprised you told me his vertical was only 30, which is weird to me because I figured he'd be off the. But what does that matter? Like in the NFL, it's just an athleticism test. I mean, great. He might not be able to finish that alley oop, but yeah, 4.47 is pretty good.
It's pretty darn good. So we'll see what more comes from the NFL Combine later today. You did mention the Predators. They get a win last night against the Winnipeg Jets in a game without Roman Josi, and that was probably I hate to do this because there's 60 games in. And I'm not going to sit here and go through like each one of them in my head. If it wasn't the best he's looked all year, it was certainly a top 5 performance from UC Saros. He's awesome last night. And, the Predators, I think, played their butts off. They dug in and gave it a shot defensively. Wasn't always perfect. Winnipeg had about 5 or 6 really good looks last night, but Saros was there to close the door. So, I did speak to Philip Forsberg after the game, and he talked about the win. He's like, you never know. We've been on runs before. We need to go on another one again here. And I was like, yeah, you do. But, we know what the score is in terms of the standings and the playoffs and all that. But they did kind of spill it all out there last night from an effort standpoint, which was good to see. The crowd responded. They had a nice 5-on-3 penalty kill, which lasted for 1 minute and 54 seconds. And when they got to the end of that, the place exploded. It felt like, kind of a big game in the building last night with the way that it played out, even though we know with the standings, it's not. So good for them to get that win.
Yeah. Well, and that's of these games left when you play one of the best teams in the league, that's probably helps a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's go ahead and take a chunk out of these guys. So good for them. Good for Saros. Saros responding to his critics, which I guess is us.
Yeah.
So good for Saros. Willie, by the way, responded to my rant yesterday.
Yes.
I was like listening for something to use, and it wasn't really, Willie is like kind and level-headed. Not
a lot of screaming.
I do think that the one big thing with this is semantics, because they went through this checklist and he's going with Vingy, like, okay, bigger concern, Saros for this, bigger concern, Saros. So for example, he's like, bigger concern, Saros or Evangelista? And I think Vingo's like, well, that's about a push. And say it like to me, I think it's the wrong word. Okay. Worst performer, there are plenty this year.
Yeah.
And that's where
we're
not arguing that. Concern, again, when the contract starts next year, if Evangelista doesn't become a productive, like top 6 core forward, that stinks. That's too bad. You were hoping that would happen. That's not as devastating at all as if Saros isn't great, elite for his contract. So again, we're talking long-term concern, but hey, good for Saros. And if he can stack some performances, get some momentum, then you just have to hope he's going to be great.
Well, this place is the Lions' den for the Winnipeg Jets. That's the second time they'd come in here and walked out of here with a loss this year. They don't have very many losses. Last night was their 15th loss. They haven't lost very many games, but
Finally getting them back for 2018.
must be. I mean,
who they still have? Hellebuck and
they still got Shifley. They still
Shifley.
got Ehlers. They still got Hellebuck. They still got Kyle Connor.
Connor.
They got quite a few.
Kyle Connor.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
So have some of that.
Buddy.
That's right. Yeah. So
This
it's
is
even now. It's even.
Kyle Turris revenge tour going on out here. Sticking up for Kyle Turris.
Yeah.
Yeah. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. An interesting situation to monitor that Mike Florio threw out there yesterday as it relates to the Tennessee Titans and some potential movement with the number 1 overall pick. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Joe, we're entering into talking season, as Coach Spurrier used to say back in the day. He was referring to SEC Media Days. I'm referring to the NFL Combine and the beginning of NFL free agency for our purposes here. A lot of things going on out there. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, who did us all a favor by articulating the Jordan Schultz versus Ian Rappaport showdown at Pro Football Talk a couple days ago, went on the radio yesterday on 105.3 The Fan on Thursday morning at the NFL Combine. And we do have the audio from this. Here is what Mike Florio had to say as it relates to the Tennessee Titans and a team that he's here connecting with them at the number 1 overall pick.
I did hear yesterday, and you hear all sorts of stuff, and I don't like to traffic and stuff I've heard because I don't know how accurate it is, but I did have somebody tell me that the Cowboys have talked to the Titans about moving up to number 1. Now, I think a lot of teams talk about moving around, and I don't know if you guys have heard that, but yeah, that's a jump, and I don't know what you would have to put into that or whether you'd have to put Micah Parsons into that package if it would go that way, but teams talk all the time. Like, I never get too moved by team talk to, like, they talk all the time. When the report came out a couple of weeks ago, the Steelers called the Jaguars about Trevor Lawrence. I thought, well, yeah, they're looking for a starting quarterback. They're calling around to just see what the market will be. General managers talk to other general managers all the time. And you get, maybe you're thinking about moving to 5. So you want to see what it's going to take to get to number 1. So you can say to the team that's got number 5, this is what number 1 wants. So there's always different explanations for why a team would even do it, assuming it happened. But I did hear, haven't reported, haven't verified that there was a conversation.
So that was Mike Florio.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Talking about the Cowboys and some potential conversations with the Titans about moving up to number 1 there. Said that he's not reporting it, but he did hear it. That's what Mike Florio said. So what do you think of that?
Well, I'd tell you, but my computer all my websites just crashed. What number are the Cowboys? That's what I was trying to look up.
I can pull that up very quickly. Hold on.
Sorry. I was going to be right there to tell you. And gosh, stupid computer.
Yeah, get a Mac, Joe. I was going to help you. Come on now.
I know I have.
Cowboys are 12.
Yeah. So, you talk about, wow. Okay, this thing is really about to blow up in real time. This is like the electronic version of the bird in my house. Holy crap. Look at this thing. Please help our engineers fix this problem. No. I'm just going to turn this thing off. 12. So you're talking, you could be getting into the offensive tackle range. You could be getting into receiver range. You could be getting into Tyler Warren range.
Sure.
Something like that. There's other edges, whatever. That's a drop. So to me, he mentioned Micah Parsons. I don't think the Cowboys are dealing Micah Parsons.
Well, let me tell you, if they are, you make that deal.
Sure. But what I think is, if the Cowboys are moving to 1, the only reason they're doing that is to get the QB, right?
Yes.
It means that they are enamored with one of these QBs. And if that's the case, then I think that just makes sense. It would just totally stand to reason that Dak Prescott is coming back, right? Now, we're taking a few different leaps from what we just heard from Mike Florio. Yeah, these teams ain't talking. But anyway, here's some coffee puns. But that's what I've wondered is, like, you're telling me all these teams, and I think the Giants, I feel pretty good about that reporting and about that scenario of, like, Stafford or
trying to move up.
But it's not a crazy idea that other teams might just fall in love with one of these quarterbacks. Again, This is definitely not, it's not the great year for quarterbacks. It's also not the Pickett, Malik Willis year for quarterbacks.
Well, and maybe a team that we don't expect falls in love with one of these quarterbacks, right? Like, a lot of people linking the Giants and the Raiders and Cleveland and, teams that are quarterback needy, quote unquote, with these guys coming out. Like, Dallas is not quarterback needy. Dallas just gave a ton of money to Dak Prescott. But what if Jerry Jones is looking around and he says, I love Cam Ward, and I think Cam Ward can be our quarterback of the future, and you try to move Dak Prescott out of that. Now, again, I would imagine, without having it right in front of me right now, I can pull it up, but I would imagine, like, the financial cost of moving Dak Prescott right now is probably significant.
Yeah, there's a big dead cap in it for sure. But Someone got into that yesterday, and it's not a completely prohibitive number, but it's big. So yeah, you got to be resolved, and you got to absolutely love. I can see again, Cam Ward to me is definitely again, I like Shedeur Sanders better, but Cam Ward is definitely the type of quarterback that there's going to be 2, 3, 4 teams that are like, oh God, yeah,
Yeah.
And I could see Jerry Jones being just that guy.
I could too. I mean, look, my dream is dead of, either number one, Deion Sanders being the coach of the Titans and having Shedeur here and squaring off with PK every week.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Well, but I mean, closely behind that, I would have enjoyed watching Deion Sanders, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, with Jerry Jones every week. Would have been awesome.
Yes.
That's not going to happen, but, leave it. Jerry is getting up there in age. He wants another Super Bowl before his time is done around here. And is Dak Prescott going to be the guy to win it? I don't know.
Yeah. Now, you've got some elements in place that are good. That
You do.
You got what you have is like a strangely, bad team last year that has. It's a kind of a bad combination, right? It's like, but you also have like a handful of really elite players, so you have to pay them all.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets into with Dak. You got a dead cap hit, but you certainly give yourself more flexibility with your roster if you move him for the next couple of years. The question is, okay, so is this rookie gonna drag your group? But that's obviously been a winning formula for some teams in this league, is having that quarterback on that deal and then doing more around that quarterback.
So, let's say Prescott became available, where would he rank to you in terms of the options out there on the veteran quarterback front for the Tennessee Titans that you feel like are realistic?
Yeah, I think I would rather have Matthew Stafford. Now, there's a little more runway with Dak. Dak's younger. Dak's probably about 6 years younger than Stafford. Again, Stafford is like the short-term best option of anybody we know is available to some extent. I'd take Dak over Darnold. Darnold, again, really good year, but Dak has done more. Dak's had an interesting career. He had the really bad interception year a couple years ago. He was MVP level in the 23 regular season. He was an MVP candidate. He was that good. He's a good to very good middle of the NFL quarterback with some runway left. I would absolutely take Dak Prescott as my quarterback. I understand there's going to be people, and if I can turn my computer on at some point during the show, I'll read them, who are going to be screaming about the text line because, let's face it, the unknown is undefeated, and it always will be. And so, it's like people look at Dak and say, yeah, he's not good enough. Dak has, to me, demonstrated more than enough to tell you that if you put a good team around him, that he can win football games for you.
Well, I would love to know the seriousness of like Dallas's intentions of trying to move up number one. Is this a passing conversation of, hey, what would it take to move up to number one? Oh, cool. We're not doing that, but thanks for the call. Or is this like legitimate? Is it a legitimate interest from Dallas to do this? Because, I've talked about it. I don't have a whole lot of interest if I'm the Titans of kind of moving beyond the top 4. So if you're doing that, if you're going all the way down to 12, you better get a heck of a return from the Dallas Cowboys.
But again, if you get your quarterback, your bridge quarterback, your quarterback for the next few years, okay. Yes, it stinks to not be able to have one of these top guys. But then and I don't know what else might be part of this.
Dak and Micah Parsons.
Can you get a third-round pick? Yeah, the whole team.
Jerry's trading everyone.
Jerry's like reversing the Herschel Walker trade. But can you get in the third round too? You maybe swapping a couple picks, whatever. Again, how if it is serious, if there is anything other than, like Florio said, it might just be as simple as we just want to kind of get a sense for the market,
right?
Which
would be a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and the teams talking to each other. That's if you really
we got to eliminate that phrase from like the lexicon out there.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like that can mean very surface basic stuff that they all need to be doing.
Yeah. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 1025. Teron Davenport will join us coming up next from the NFL Combine. We'll get TD's thoughts on what he's seen, what he's heard this week as it relates to the Tennessee Titans, and more. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
ESPN's Turon Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our friend Turon Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD. And I feel like TD is like a kid in a candy store this week at the NFL Combine. TD, good morning. How we doing?
Hey, good morning. Good morning. You are not lying, man. I'm on my way to the candy shop right now. See if I can get me some Dot, Swedish Fish, Sour Patch Kids. We getting something.
I tell you, them Swedish Fish, man,
Underrated.
that's some good stuff
Underrated.
right there. That's some real good stuff right there. So, TD, we've talked with you a couple of different times now about the edge rushers in this class. I am fascinated with them. I think there's a lot of them. I think there's a lot of good ones. Beyond the obvious of Abdul Carter, which we'll get to him with you here in just a few minutes, who do you think has really helped themselves this week? What's kind of stood out to you about the edge rushers in this class at the Combine?
Yeah, man. I tell you what, a few guys helped themselves more than James Pierce Jr. And you look at what he did last night, the way he aced the testing. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to run the fastest time, but he sure enough did it. And you look at that, the way he flew through the drills. This dude showed, like, I got the goods, but that didn't always get the delivery statistically, and there's a abundance of reasons. So you look at him, he's clearly somebody. I got to factor in Shamar Stewart, right? And I know for the stats guys, they're not really going to like that because he didn't put up much sack numbers, maybe, 3 sacks over the last 2 years, but he's got it. And you got to remember, in college at A&M, it's not really – their system for their guys, their edge guys specifically, it's not always conducive to getting the sacks, So you got to factor that in. So he's someone, those are 2 guys. Mike Green is still, he didn't blow up everything at the Combine because he didn't test, but he's another one to consider. So, there's a lot. And I know the Titans, they like Mykel Williams out of Georgia, and you saw the news with him, right, that he was at 60%, after that season opener. So, those are just 3 guys that come out to mind for me.
With Pierce, TD, I haven't heard anything that's actually like solid or anything like that. But there's people talking about him falling. There's some guy, I think Matt Miller took him out of the first round, which is surprising me. I didn't think that it would get to that. People throw out these sort of vague whatever character things. I don't know of anything that would be that, but I do know, having been around him a little bit at UT, he hates interviews. He hates doing media stuff. And so sometimes that can hurt you, right? I mean, sometimes if you don't like talking in the media stuff, maybe that means you don't like talking at the team interviews. But how did he do in that setting? And what have you heard just beyond the field from him?
No, he did well. He answered every question. I mean, he wasn't like Mr. Personality up there, but that's okay. Like Mr. Personality doesn't always get to the quarterback, and that's what in essence he's going to get paid to do. So I think he did fine. Now I am hearing there is actually something to the off-field stuff, and for me, it just comes down to, I know personally that you could be a good person, you make a bad mistake, and I think that's really the big thing. So that's why I asked Mike Berganti about that. And he made it clear, like, you dig into it, you find out what's going on, and you really have to make the determination whether or not he's going to learn from it. And that's the biggest thing, learning from the mistake.
So, TD, where do you come down on the Abdul Carter stuff? We saw yesterday where he's not going to have surgery. Titans fans with us are already freaking out about how he's injured and you can't draft him. And, I mean, the guy hasn't missed a game, so I don't know that I would throw the injury prone label on him quite yet to this point, but where do you come down on all the Abdul Carter stuff?
Right. It's obviously an area to be concerned about. I mean, you play the game on your feet. So any injury to the feet, especially a stretch fracture or something like that, you have to think about that and wonder. But the thing that you really have to determine is, okay, when did it happen? Like, is this something that he played with throughout the year, or is this something that happened in training? And I'll say this, I know Brent Callaway, where he's training down there at Exos in Plano, Texas. I would imagine they would have found that if it happened, you know what I mean? I get it kind of floating under the radar. And even that surprised me just from the guys at Exos. But I'll also say this, Callaway is the lead trainer and the guy that's primarily working him out. And guess what? He and Zach Woodfin, the Titans, strength and conditioning coach, he's best friends. You know what I mean? So the information is going to be there. To me, I look at it, if I'm Abdul Carter, I don't even work out at pro day, because it's just like, look, man, you guys know what it is with me. I put the film out there. I'm the best in this draft. We shouldn't even have a conversation about that.
Man, that's 2 mutes for me today. What the heck is going on? No, I said the same thing, TD. I don't know why he's even worried about pro day stuff, I mean, I think – if he's healthy, he's going to test. Based on watching him play, probably great. But like you said, watch him play. It seems like with that stuff, we were talking about this yesterday. Stress fracture, that can definitely be a big concern with basketball players. I've seen careers end because it kept happening, and big guys too in football. I think the bigger you get, probably just the more weight on it, the more concern. But I don't know. I can't think of an example of a guy with that. Again, I'm not talking about like fifth metatarsal or different things like that, but just like where like a stress fracture was a career ender. I could be forgetting someone, but I don't know. Does anyone come to mind for you on that?
No, not necessarily, but help me out. Javon Curse, when he had that injury, what was that foot injury he had?
It was the fifth metatarsal that he broke.
Okay. So now we're talking about something a lot different.
And you got Jones fractures, and that's different too, right?
Yeah. So those are things that have been brought up. Javon Curse, when you're talking about Abdul Carter, but Curse went to Philly. He did his thing, man. Like, they went to a Super Bowl. They didn't win it, but they went to one. So I look at that, and I also say this because you mentioned the weight, and it made me think of it. He told me he's at 90% right now, and he's at 248, which is kind of his target weight. But remember the shoulder injury, and with that being said, he's not benching or doing much upper body stuff. So I don't know that 248 is where he'll be. I would imagine, once you start lifting and working those muscles, you boost up to 255, 250 in that neighborhood.
TD, if you had to kind of nail it down to a couple of thoughts, what stood out to you the most earlier this week when Brian Callahan and Mike Borgonzi spoke?
Yeah, I would say Borgonzi, when I asked him about the arm strength and used anticipation to make up for it, he didn't go to that excuse. He said, hey, arm strength is not an issue. So that was intriguing when he said that. Brian Callahan stood out to me. Like, he made it clear, look, cornerback is where Travis Hunter starts. And then he said you sink your teeth into that, and then you kind of go from there. And that being said, they've already discussed his management program, how that would look, how they would go about, getting him on the Kawhi Leonard practice kind of thing, that load management. So that was interesting to me.
So another Titans-related little news item here, TD. I guess it's not that surprising, right? The Chiefs are going to tag Trey Smith. We've talked about, I think we were on the same page. I think he would have been, I think he would have been a good option. Do you feel like had he not been tagged, that would have been a serious pursuit? And I guess how does that affect the Titans? What's the pivot?
Yeah, I think it definitely would have been. Excuse me, this cold air gets in here and it kind of gets you. I think it would have been a big pursuit because just you look at the match and remember what Callahan said at the season-ending presser, where we're going to adjust the right side, new right tackle probably, maybe right guard. So it's going to be an area. I still think Dylan Radins, I wrote about it last week, or actually Monday. I still think Radins is a guy that you got to factor into that. He finally got to dedicate himself to one position. So, that's not a bad fallback. I know he gave up 12, 13 sacks last year, which is something that's going to be, it has to be improved upon. But, that's somebody. Was it the Rams? They just made a guard available. I think it was the Rams they did. And they had just signed him last year. So that's something to look at. He was injured. It's telling you all this, can't remember the guy's name, but that's what happens. But that's another option.
TD, last thing for you. Have you walked into any coffee shops this week? And if so, has anybody verbally accosted you while you've been there?
Nah, they know better. So they're not dealing with anything like that. Not to say I'm a tough guy, but remember what James Brown said, I don't know karate, but I know crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
nobody's
Yeah,
messing
we're
with him.
talking. Yeah,
Ooh,
we're
there we
talking.
go. And also keep an eye out for PK. He's like tagging around Vrabel at the bar and trying to get Vrabel to buy him beers. Tell PK to calm the hell down up there, will you?
Yeah, hey, listen, man. PK's out here having fun like the rest of us. I ran into Vrabel a couple times, and he's right back at home, man. That guy, he loves a good time like any of us, and it's just funny watching him hold court, man. It's pretty cool. I ran to Stretch too. Talked to him for a little bit as well.
Nice. Very nice. Well, TD, have a great time today, man. Enjoyed your coverage all week at the NFL Combine. Have fun this weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
I appreciate you guys. Take it easy.
Yes, sir. Teron Davenport, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what TD had to say on the Titans, on the NFL Combine. Coming up next, take your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Speaking of the NFL Combine updates this week on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by thenewcumberland.com and Boomba's Pizza. Thenewcumberland.com, Nashville's resort-style community overlooking downtown on the Cumberland River. Go to their website at thenewcumberland.com. Boomba's, go try their award-winning pizzas at one of their locations in East Nashville, Spring Hill, and Murfreesboro. Boomba's Pizza and Watch Bar. Eat, drink, watch. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Appreciate TD for being with us in the last segment. Keith asking if TD was running laps around the 500. He was on his way to the combine. Getting stuff done out there.
No, he was on. That's
the
a
third mute that you've had today.
What the
You're
hell?
on an impressive run right now.
I think the last year I haven't had 3. What does it mean? What is happening? What does it mean? Yeah, no, TD was on his way to the place where all the fun happens. People sitting around talking, and some people stretching.
Some people running.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey man, I love the enthusiasm.
Cam on the text line says, I think from a cost perspective, I'd try to bridge Radens and go get a right tackle. While he's not elite, Radens has shown growth, and he's never played with a competent right tackle. It's from Cam on the text line. What do you make of that idea with Trey Smith now being tagged in Kansas City? So you can remove him from your list of options. What do you do now at guard if you're the Titans? And does Dylan Radens still factor into the plans?
Yeah, hope not for the Titans' sake. I mean, he's fine. He's gotten better. I'd try to get a player that's better than Radens. I think you can get a player who's better than Radens and not have to break the bank to do it. So
I would agree.
Radens as a depth guy, sure. If I'm trying to fix my offensive line, is he the biggest problem? No. Is he the biggest concern? No. Can you upgrade from him? Is he upgrading at that spot? Would that be part of fixing your line? I mean, it's 20% of the line by my awesome math skills. So, yeah, I'm trying to be better than Radens.
I would agree with that. I think you need to be better than Radens. Now, obviously Trey Smith was the belle of the ball in terms of the guards that were potentially going to be out there and available. And now we know that he's not. It's not a huge surprise. Like if you're Kansas City, particularly, by the way, with the way that Super Bowl went, when you got Jalen Carter in the middle just blowing everything up all the time. And it's not like it was exclusively against, Trey Smith or anything. But, like, you want to preserve your offensive line as best you can. We'll see if they're actually able, they're tagging him with the intention of trying to work out a long-term deal. We'll see if they're actually able to do that. But obviously, the combo Vols Titans fan, one of the dreams is dead with Trey Smith.
Yeah.
At least for the moment.
But maybe James Pierce can be a thing. That wasn't one of the interesting things TD talked about. TD right there, that tells me, something happened. Don't know what. Don't know if it's like something that rises to the level of like there's documentation out there, legal police. I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, clearly it's more than just he doesn't say much.
Right.
So what is it? What does it mean? That's I guess we'll find out. But tell you what, as a player, and 4.47 for Pierce, the guy who we all thought, was a little bit overestimated as number one.
Yeah, the number one overall pick was always a little.
That happens. Yeah, it happens a year out from a guy playing, but man, he's a first round talent. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. I don't, this year with the Vols, he had a kind of a stretch there where he didn't have a lot of like sacks and things like that. But I mean, if you watch the Vols play, he was basically unblockable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, teams wisely doubled him or did things away from him, moved the pocket. They ran at him. I mean, they did the things that you do for a player of that caliber. But he is a player of that caliber.
We do have one texter that says we're the biggest Tennessee homers out there, with all due respect. At least he put it with all due respect on there. I appreciate that.
All right, who is this?
It's the 808.
Oh, here we go. You guys are the biggest Tennessee. Oh, no kidding. Okay. Yeah, I mean, tell me why. I mean, that's what Stilly. We got Stilly coming up.
I like the
guess.
Vols, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm
you're
Vols.
You're a Vols fan.
Yeah,
but you are the most level-headed Vols fan. You are a level-headed Vols fan. I mean, you're not.
There's a great many of us.
I'm probably more like at times I've had some takes that are more Vol homer than yours. Like, yes, this Vols team can make a Final Four, or no, Tony Vitello should not be imprisoned for 12 years. Sorry, Vanderbilt fans. Or, like I do. I think Hendon Hooker, I mean, we got still on. We could scream at each other about that. I'm not done believing that Hendon Hooker can be a good NFL quarterback. I'm sorry that him not playing at all, him having an ACL tear, and then they bring in Bridgewater this playoff, so that means his career's dead? No.
Some news on the Stafford front. Diana Rossini putting this out there and says the Rams expected to meet with Stafford at their facility in person today regarding his future. Both the Raiders and the Giants have discussed a 2-year contract for Matthew Stafford that includes $90 to $100 million guaranteed, and a decision is expected soon. This from Diana Rossini. What do you make of that? Rams meeting with Stafford today, and both the Raiders and the Giants apparently have thrown out a lot of money towards Matthew Stafford and a potential new contract.
Yeah, something's coming soon here. I've kind of, initially I was like, okay, well, this is just posturing. He's gonna get more money from the Rams. Like Dan Graziano's up here talking about Aaron Rodgers as the fallback for the Rams. I just like, if you're Sean McVay, that's your plan. You're gonna cheap out on Stafford, and then you're gonna bring in a headache for whatever you're paying. I don't understand the logic. So it's coming here. It's coming to, and obviously, again, if you're the Titans, if it works out, Stafford back with the Rams, now I think you got a real chance that the Giants are coming up to get number one, if that's what you want to do. If you want to trade one, get down to 3, get one of those top 2 guys, and and prosper. I think that, and get more picks. I mean, I think, you're not going to get a ton. What are you going to get? You're getting the 3rd round and maybe get another pick, but still, that's a pretty good outcome for you. So this texter says, what? The desperation of Trey Smith. So texter, just so you know, Trey Smith is about to be the highest paid offensive guard in the NFL, period.
Yeah.
The Titans need an offensive guard. He just got tagged. I mean, how many teams do you see tag offensive guards? Does that tell you that maybe Trey Smith's okay at football? I don't know.
Happen every year.
So I understand, he played for the Vols, so he must be Vols homers. But I mean, pay attention to the NFL.
I'm interested to see. Rossini on this tweet here says a decision on the Stafford part of this is expected soon. Like, I'm ready for some quarterback dominoes start to fall here. So let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing going here today.
At 9:07, it'll happen. Something will happen at 9:07.
Exactly. Stilly is scheduled to be with us coming up next, and I feel reasonably confident that he's going to do it.
Take some Excedrin, Stilly.
We're going to get his thoughts on the Titans, get his thoughts on this week at the NFL Combine. Scale of 1 to 10, how much is he panicking about Abdul Carter right now? We'll get into all that and more.
Cold washcloth on your head, Stilly.
Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Friday morning. And a celebration is in order. We welcome our friend Jared Stillman to the program here on this Friday morning. Stilly, how we doing? What's going on?
Oh, I'm so glad to be on the Robby and Rexrode program. My son and I were listening to TD, and I started Googling. I was trying to feed him with one hand, and I was trying to Google with the other hand. What did James Pierce Jr. do? Clearly, he did something.
Clearly.
Because I don't know what it is. I have no idea when TD's like this off the field stuff. You know, I hear there may be something to this. I'm like, I didn't know of any of this off the field stuff with James Pierce Jr. So I'm stunned that my college football insider, my Tennessee Volunteers homer, the Athletics finest college football writer this side of the Mississippi, Joseph Robinette Rexrode Jr., does not know what James Pierce Jr. did at Tennessee.
So you're telling me this is the first time you've heard of this? We've been talking about this for 2 weeks.
This is the first I've heard of there being off the field issues.
Oh, you're too busy tracking down what Florio said about like Sam Darnold in 2019 or something. By the way, I'm glad to hear that you were home feeding your son and that he didn't have to say, "Where's Daddy? It's 3 a.m. Is Daddy at the bar again?"
Is he talking already? Wow, that'd be impressive.
That would be amazing, right?
That'd be amazing. Really.
You know, I try. I think that we all have our public personas in our personal lives, but
sure.
The fact that my son's mom is the Canadian CMA Industry Person of the Year. Last week was the Country Radio Seminar.
Way to go.
And the fine folks at Broken Bow Records had this wonderful event that we were a part of. And then Jelly Roll opened his bar. And because Jelly Roll is signed with Broken Bow Records, we were at the grand opening of Jelly Roll's bar. It was a very, very wonderful evening. Our son was well taken care of. We actually have this thing, Joe, called a babysitter.
Yep.
Who we lined up to watch our son. And so it's all about juggling all of the professional success both Lindsay and I have, and, of course, our new life with our son. So
at the expense of the Robby and Rexrode program. We appreciate it.
Unfortunately, the Robby and Rexrode program had to go. As I was standing there at Jelly Roll's bar at 12:30 about to fall asleep with my feet hurting, like, all right, I'm ready to go home, take my shoes off like an old man.
Still,
by the way, I fell asleep at like 8 o'clock last night, which
Good
is
for
kind
you.
of the new norm for me.
Still, he always turns this into a humble brag. It's like, we're talking about Stafford. It's like, oh, yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I was at the same resort as Brian Kelly, so I understand these things can happen. By the way, it was a very opulent resort that I was at. Thank you.
I will say this. As we ran into the Callahans,
You like that?
I remember thinking to myself, being like, we can afford to be here, but if we had kids, I'm not sure we could be because of how much, it's like $20 for a hamburger, and I'm sure kids probably eat like 7 of them. And that's something I'm not looking forward to here in the distant future.
So on one of my favorite things to periodically check in on is it's really a metric that I've developed in my head, which is the Jared Stillman 1 to 10 panic meter. And I feel like now's a good time to check in on that. After the Abdul Carter stuff that came out over the last couple of days, Jared, 1 to 10, where are you on the Jared Stillman panic meter as it relates to Abdul Carter and the Tennessee Titans?
I'll give it a 10. A freaking 10 is where I am with the Abdul Carter. I mean, this is serious stuff. And I know it's what confirms my belief in how serious this Abdul Carter thing is, at least to be concerned about, not to take him off the board right away. But the thing that makes me for sure that this is a big deal is that Joe is completely brushing this off as if it is no big deal. Joe's like,
so that's how you make your decisions?
Number 1 pick. I mean, look, if I was leaning towards, is this a big deal or is this not a big deal? Joe says it's not a big deal. It's a big deal, folks.
Okay, so you're the GM.
This.
Okay, so you're the GM. So because of this information, you're not picking him now.
As of right now?
Like you were going to. No. So you're switching. You were going to pick him, and now you're picking, let's say, non-quarterback. You're picking who?
Hunter.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I'm taking Hunter anyway. I'm already taking Hunter. So, but no, I don't think the information we have, Jared, again, you have to put things in proper context. It's a stress reaction. This is not a Jones fracture. It's not a Liz Frank fracture. It's not
Who's giving us
broken
the information we
metatarsal.
have?
Oh, okay. Oh, I
Rosenhaus.
see. That's right. The panic meter does rely on conspiracy theories. I forgot about that.
I had a
forgot
former
about
general
that.
manager yesterday I was texting with who told me, because I'm like, well, Carter says they say that he's going to do the pro day. And again, that's another thing. Joe's like, I don't think he needs to do the pro day. I am telling you, Joe, there is no gray area on this. If he did not work out at the combine, which he didn't, and if he did not do the pro day or a private workout for Floyd Reese would not draft Abdul Carter. Like, he would not draft him. And he would be fine. If Abdul Carter went on to be a Hall of Famer, he'd be fine with it. They didn't draft Randy
well,
Moss
he shouldn't
because of
be.
all the
No one
off the
should be
field
fine
issues.
with that.
He didn't draft Randy Moss because of all the off-the-field issues that Randy Moss had, which
You're really detailing some great decisions here. You got more?
Right.
Right. Like, sometimes that's not the right way to go about it.
The point of this for him, and even after Randy Moss entered the Hall of Fame, and he and Randy were friends, like from their days in New England, he was not upset with his decision to not draft Randy Moss because he had, again, this set of values that, hey, this is how we operate. And we're going to operate like this 100% of the time, and we're going to be right 70% of the time. And so you're going to miss when you have these certain values, you're going to miss on a Jeffrey Simmons because you're going to say, well, he's injured, let's not take him. He didn't work out. Let's not draft. So you miss on Simmons. But you also don't get yourself into Julio Jones. You don't get yourself into Caleb Farley. You don't get yourself into L'Jarius Sneed. You don't get yourself into Corey Davis. So I do
don't end up with Jeffrey Simmons
in the 100. Right. Again, just because it's convenient doesn't mean that you say, well,
but Jared,
this one time it worked out, so now it'll work out all these other times.
Right.
And that's how you dig yourself the hole the Titans dug. So if you've got core values, you stick to those values regardless of whether or not it's convenient. If that's what you believe in, and that's what I believe in is, hey, if you've got a foot injury for a big guy and you don't work out, I can't use the first overall pick on you.
Yeah. So Liz, I hear what you're saying, and I think that it's fine to have those standards but you also, there is a sliding scale. And like to even try to take the Caleb, and I heard Big Joe doing this, to take the Caleb Farley thing and comp it to what we know right now about Abdul Carter, to me is pretty comical. It's
what we're
bad.
told by Drew Rosenhaus.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course. That's fine. But like, if the kid doesn't work out his pro day because he's still healing, then that's there are other things that you can do here too. I mean, you have your own medical people.
Maybe you could win 111 games as general manager of the Titans. Maybe you could build a team that goes.
You would probably win 222 at least, right?
Maybe you could do. Maybe you could do all these things. I'm just telling you right now, the guy who is the best general manager in the history of the Tennessee Titans. If Abdul Carter did not work out at his pro day, if he did not do a private workout for the Titans, if he did not work out at the combine, he would not draft him. And those are the values with which I believe in building a team. And so I'm sticking to my values. I heard Robby today, because people on Twitter yesterday were, Abdul Carter's never misses games. You can't say he's injury prone. Wasn't that the excuse for L'Jarius Sneed last year? Just because all the medical information points to L'Jarius Sneed being unavailable in the future, susceptible to injury. It's like, well, it doesn't count because he didn't miss any games. Well, what's the medical information say about Abdul Carter's
And again,
future?
You're talking about a guy who didn't even participate in camp last year. Like, again, you're trying to compare that to this. I understand it's an injury, but if you're going to say,
he's
hell
got
no.
2 injuries right now.
Right. He's got a shoulder injury and he's got this foot
And I
injury.
didn't say hell no. I'm not saying take him off the board. I'm saying he's got to work out at the pro day. If he doesn't work out at the pro day, I'm out. I will not draft somebody who does not work out at the combine and does not work out at the pro day.
Jared, couple things for you. What did you make of Florio?
But I guess you know more. I guess you know more than Floyd does, Joe.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
What did you make of the Florio stuff? He floated out there yesterday for the Cowboys, having conversations to move up to number 1. And where do you think Stafford's going to end up here when this is all said and done?
Boy, I think Stafford's going to end up with the Giants, which I absolutely hate. The Cowboy floating it out there, number 1 thing. Florio, and I wonder how a capital J journalist, Joseph Robinette Rexrode Jr., I wonder how he does feel about this, because Florio's like, I don't have enough to report this, and I don't like to traffic in this
He
gossip.
did say that,
but here's
played
the gossip. And I was like, as soon as my buddy does the morning show that Florio, so that I texted him, I was like, can you send me that cut right now? And I was like, this is a big deal to me. So I like the gossip part of it. I don't think the Cowboys are serious contenders to move up from 11 to the number 1 pick. But if the Rams can move up from 15 to the number 1 pick, anything's possible. I'm trying to figure out like what the point for Jerry Jones to move up to number 1 would be. Like the best players in this draft, he's got a quarterback. He's got a pass rusher.
Because he's moving Dak. He's moving Dak, and he's getting Cam Ward. That's what it would
How
be.
do you move Dak with a full no trade clause?
Oh, Dak will do it. If the Cowboys, you think Dak's gonna? You think Dak is gonna? If the Cowboys actually set this into motion, that Dak would be like, no, I'm just gonna stick with the no trade.
If they try to trade me to the Jets, that's the whole point of having the no trade.
Everybody loves Nashville, Jared.
So Dak's going to be part of the deal to come to the Titans.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think I'd do that if I was Dak. There's no state income tax in Dallas. He's got CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver. And, I mean, again, now look, maybe Dak would be okay with the lack of attention. But if Dak Prescott were to leave the Cowboys, I think he'd have to say goodbye to his sleep number commercials and his yogurt commercials and his, the marketing persona goes down a little bit when you go from the Cowboys to the Titans. I don't think Dak would accept a trade to the Titans.
Hey, Florio said Micah Parsons. You can sign me up for that. I'll do that.
Well, Micah Parsons doesn't have a no trade clause. Now, the only thing I could see in this is Jerry would want to pull the A.J. Brown, Traylon Burks thing here and say, well, let's trade Micah to get the next Micah who we don't have to pay. But the problem is because it's the number 1 pick, you'd have to pay more, in my opinion, than just Parsons. And I don't think that's really a fair trade for the Cowboys. I mean, personally, I think Parsons will be better than any player in this draft, but I still wouldn't just trade him straight up. And if I were the Titans, I would drive to Dallas to go pick up Micah Parsons and drive him back so that nothing happens with, all the plane issues we've had around the country lately. So I mean, look, I'd love it, but I just don't think it's very serious. And Ian and I were talking about this yesterday on the air. I said, do you actually believe that the Cowboys reached out to the Titans for the number 1 pick? Florio's like, I heard this, like just grapevine gossip. And Ian said no, and I kind of agree with him. I actually think there's probably a pretty good chance this didn't happen. But it's fun to talk about.
Okay, hush. I like the hush, by the way. A couple quick things from the text line. What Stillman's saying right now about sticking to values pretty much this is Sean, goes against everything he says when he's not talking about Floyd. That's pretty good. LD from McMinnville would like to know, has Jared ever addressed the fact that his impeccable, infallible Sam Darnold, big competitor, didn't compete at the Combine in 2018? Could have tried to make a push for the number 1 pick. Didn't compete at the Combine. Any thoughts, Jared?
He did compete at the Combine.
He didn't throw.
But he did compete. He ran a 4.85.
Oh,
he ran a 1.66.
So that's okay.
10-yard split.
Oh, you got his splits.
3-cone drill.
You got his cones. Oh, goody.
I mean, he didn't bench press.
Why didn't he throw, Jared? Why didn't he throw? Does that matter or not?
If I was picking in the 2018 draft, I might hold it against him. But we've seen Sam Darnold compete in the NFL.
Okay.
It's not exactly an apples to apples comparison. I'm trying to figure out what makes Shedeur Sanders so good, in terms of why I'm supposed to draft him.
If I was his agent, 100%, you do not throw because he does not have the big arm that Cam Ward had. He doesn't have a huge arm. Everybody knows that. So throwing at the Combine is stupid. And that's exactly what his agent told him, and that's what he's doing.
His arm strength's right there.
That's fine. They're saying it's fine. I mean, that's why he's being asked about it, though, right? It's anticipation. It's Kirk Cousins throwing at the Combine would have been a terrible idea. Like but Kirk Cousins can play quarterback in the NFL. That's Shedeur Sanders.
Is sitting there when it comes to Shedeur. I think Shedeur is a TV draft prospect. Just like we talk about TV
just
players.
Fake.
The Titans
traded
really for Julio
player.
Jones. And when the Titans acquired Julio Jones, TV went into this. Are they now the favorites for the Super Bowl because they acquired a 31-year-old injured Julio Jones? It would be like if the Chiefs, needing a running back, signed Ezekiel Elliott. Like, Zeke is done. But TV would be, oh, my God, what do we make of it? And so I think, the more I hear these guys that, like, grind the tape, I think Greg Cosell said that he's got Tyler Shuck. And I think Tyler Shuck is a backup
Your boy.
in the NFL. He's got Tyler Shuck ahead of Shedeur Sanders. Tim Hasselbeck said that he thinks that Shedeur is closer to the other guys in the discussion than he is the top of the draft. And yet, because he's Deion's kid, and because, it's Stephen A. Smith and they love Deion, I think that they're kind of putting Shedeur up in a spot where he doesn't belong.
You're not this dumb.
Josh
You're
Allen
not this dumb. So you're
Sam
telling me
Darnold
that.
was
So you're
an
telling me
elite
that if
draft
it was
prospect.
again Shedeur
Rexrode.
Jones, yeah,
Yes,
that he'd be like the sixth quarterback. He'd be like a third round draft grade. That's what you're saying.
I think he'd be in the mix with Tyler Shuck.
Okay, all
Jackson
right.
Dart.
That's a good place to end it.
Jared,
I mean, you want to draft Shedeur ahead of Cam
The
Ward.
Deion thing,
Jared.
the Deion
no
thing is held
comparison between the
against
two.
him. The Deion thing is a complete negative for him. It only hurts him. You seriously think that he's overinflated as a prospect because Stephen A. is friends with, think about things before you say them sometimes.
Okay, so you're telling me that this guy is a top draft prospect, doesn't have any elite physical talents, correct?
Jared, yeah, no, he doesn't have Cam Ward's arm. Yes, he has
didn't win it. He didn't win in college.
He took a 0-12 program and turned them into a winner. What are you talking about? Didn't win in college like Patrick Mahomes? How much did he win in college?
Again, Patrick Mahomes
keep going
competed at
down the
combine.
rabbit hole of stupidity. I think we
Patrick
need to break
Mahomes
now.
Had elite arm talent. Patrick Mahomes
Didn't win in college.
showed
Didn't
and
win in
competed
college.
at the combine. I am asking
Oh, now
for
we're doing the
Shedeur
compete
to
at the
give me
combine.
something. Give me something, Shedeur Sanders, that tells me you're worthy of the number one pick.
So
He didn't win
have
in
you
college.
watched Shedeur Sanders' film or no?
Yes.
Okay, and it's not a prospect, not a guy who could be an NFL quarterback. That's what you come away
with?
with?
He's not anywhere near Cam Ward
Okay, thank you.
in terms of talent. Not anywhere
Sleep it
close
off.
to Cam Ward. By the way, this Shamar Stewart, I got to know. I see everyone's telling me that he's a top 10 pick. This guy gets 1 sack a year in college. Someone's got to explain to me what I'm missing. Why is he not getting more sacks in college?
We don't need another topic.
TD
Thank
said
you,
that
Jared.
The system is working against him at Texas A&M. You'll have to dig into that in Jared's film room. I'm just telling you what he said. Jared, thank you for being with us.
People that listen to this show, if you listen to Joe, you're going to assemble the worst roster in the history of the NFL.
Right. But listen to Jared. Oh,
all
my
injured
goodness.
guys.
The Lombardis it's a waterfall of Lombardis.
Thank you, Jared.
Legarius Sneed's knees are fine. See you guys.
See ya. We'll react to what Jared had to say coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in later today to 102.5, 106.3 The Game for Vanderbilt baseball as the Commodores take on UCLA in the Southern California College Baseball Classic. Pregame at 6:45, first pitch at 7 o'clock. Coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com. It's been a few weeks since I've been around for a Stilly segment here on this program. It revitalizes me. The blood's flowing this morning. I feel awake now. We're good.
Mostly, a lot of people enjoyed several lines from that. Kyle Tucker.
They did.
I'm glad, Kyle Tucker, you enjoyed those lines instead of like some comments that might have your kids asking you what the heck we're talking about. So that's good. I do have Matthew in Nashville sitting here with this. You know what? I'm not even going to address this because I fear for my blood pressure. Okay. Matthew in Nashville says Jared is 100% right about Sanders. Again, most of the text line is in unison with us because it's insanely idiotic. Matthew Nashville says he does not have anywhere close to the talent Ward does. That's fine. If you think Ward's way better than him, that's fine. His name is definitely bolstering him in the standing. So again, the idea is make sure that we have Stillman quoted correctly. This brings me back to a Stilly and Caroline thing. It was more Caroline, I guess, but the Marvin Harrison Jr. is propped up in this draft because of his dad, because Marvin Harrison. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, all these guys, for the most part, have kids. Deion Sanders has another kid, as someone on the text line pointed out. Didn't even get invited to the combine. Why? So, again, I'm starting to do it. I don't want to do it. I want you to comment on this, Robbie.
I think Jared's absolutely right.
I hate you.
I think if it was Shedeur Rexrode, he'd probably be a 4th, 5th rounder, and I don't think
UDFA.
I don't think anybody'd be giving him a look. Right
UDFA.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
Now, someone's asked about arm talent, arm strength. Like, yeah, like Drew Brees comparison has come up on the text line. That's pretty good. Actually, Drew Brees is a pretty good comparison. And I'm not
Here we go.
Stylistically. No. Stylistically. Kirk Cousins is a good comparison stylistically. Kirk Cousins and Drew Brees are similar. Drew Brees better. Drew Brees won a championship and was the top quarterback in the league. Cousins wasn't, but stylistically, you're talking about you go out and throw at some of these things, and you're not throwing lasers all over the field. Cam Ward will throw lasers all over the field. Now, Sanders would throw accurately because accuracy is his strength.
Yes.
Anticipation is his strength. Borgonzi talked about that this week. But his physical arm talent does pale in comparison to Cam Ward's. If that mattered, Jamarcus Russell would be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And we can go on down the list of that. It's Joe Milton, arm talent, insane. But does he always put it in the right spot? Can he throw it?
Pretty good that last game.
He did. So that's what we're talking about. And that's why not throwing is totally reasonable for Shedeur Sanders. That's exactly what you should expect. It's not a big deal. A big deal shouldn't be made out of it, but we know who does make a big deal out of it.
Well, there's a texter that's asking, like, Rexrode answer, what's elite about Sanders? My follow-up to that, like, is there anything that's elite about Ward? Like, he's got very good arm strength. He doesn't have like superhuman arm strength. Like are either one of the quarterback prospects elite? I don't know that you can make the argument that they are. So I don't know if there is anything elite about Shedeur Sanders. I think there are a lot of things that are very good. The accuracy probably being most among them, but I don't know if there's anything elite about either one of them.
Right.
That would be how I answer it.
But there are other quarterbacks who have done incredibly well in this league who you say the exact same thing about his prospects.
Of course. Yeah.
How about Brady, Brees, Cousins? Nothing elite about any of them coming out of college.
For sure.
Nothing. And how'd they do? They did okay. I got more on the text line. I'm going to go ahead and address it. What do we have next? Can I do this?
Sure.
This is pissing me off.
615-737-1025. I've got a robbery coming up at 7:45, but it looks like you're going to get two for the price of one today, baby. We'll get to that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Rexrode's been upset by the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Tribe Called Quest is making me feel a little better.
That's good.
Okay, so I think this is actually a text that I was initially angry, but now I appreciate this text because I think this helps break this down into a reasonable discussion that kind of explains how it can get sort of blurred and confused. And I mean, still he can get confused. He's texting me now about how he was right about how Neighbors is better than Harrison. Neighbors had way more catches, more yards. Harrison had more yards per catch, more touchdowns. It'll be close, but that's fine. This player will be better than that player. I'm right all the time, wrong all the time, where everybody is, right? Harrison was a prospect because of his dad's name. If you ever said that, you should feel bad.
I agree.
So thank you, Robby. God,
I agree with that.
Okay, let's talk about.
Take his whack.
So here's the texter. It says, you're absolutely delusional if you think Shedeur Sanders isn't helped out by his last name. If he had a different last name, he wouldn't be talked about nearly as much. Now,
the last part I agree with.
I do too. But that's what we're conflating media attention and coverage and chatter with NFL personnel people making decisions at quarterback that will either maybe win them a championship, keep their jobs, or get them fired. No one gives a crap in the NFL. And this is the answer from like Stilly to this, which is fair to a point. Well, Woody Johnson looks at the video game ready. Yes, there are some people in the NFL who are complete goofballs who do stuff that's insanely stupid. But
so the Ravens,
go up and down the league, personnel people, and they are choosing players who can play. Shedeur Sanders can play. Shedeur Sanders is not, probably he's the number 2 quarterback in the draft, right? It'll be a surprise if he's not taken second somewhere. I could see him falling. I could see him being, like the Levis. And by the way, Will Levis, as someone brought up, is a great example of someone with arm talent that exceeds Shedeur Sanders. Will Levis throw a laser from 60 yards away, and you're like, oh, my goodness. But it doesn't matter if you can't consistently get the ball to the spot on time, which is what Shedeur Sanders does, and why I've had him as my number 1 quarterback in this draft all along. I have not had him as my number 1 quarterback in this draft all along because his dad is freaking Deion Sanders. I couldn't give less of a crap. It makes him a media presence for sure. If these personnel people are drafting on that, they are going to get fired. Shedeur Sanders is a legitimate NFL quarterback prospect. You can dislike him as a prospect. That's fine. But to suggest that he's where he is because of his name, I would argue his name is absolutely a negative for him. And people are talking about all the
distractions.
The distractions of Deion, and he's going to be like Deion. Is he like Deion? Is he a cocky kid? They play his song when they score a touchdown. I mean, it's absolutely a negative. It's something that, if anything, could drop him in the draft. It's not lifting him in the draft. And if you think that, you're stupid. I'd like to read Keith real fast.
Sure, go ahead. You're on a roll. Don't let me stop you.
Keith says, oh wait, I lost him now. Well, I'll say the quote, Peyton and Eli were only drafted because of their daddy, Jared in diapers. I mean, seriously, if Jared was on the radio, then I expect that would be the commentary.
Hey, I saw Will Levis last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's at the Preds game. Jeffrey Simmons was there. Got on the Jumbotron. Levis immediately chugged the beer. It was impressive. And, one of the few things this year that left his hand that didn't get intercepted. So I was happy with it, too.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey!
Oh, boy. What kind of reception did he get? Did he get?
He got a good reception because he immediately started chugging the beer. So it was good.
Yeah, that's good.
Really kind of a smart move by him.
Don't wait for whatever the reaction might be. You start pounding the beer, you're going to be approved. Yes.
I just had to give one more in at Will Levis because I don't know how many more opportunities we're going to have.
Yeah, that is true.
I could see the Liam Cohen reunion happening already. He down there in Duval. Could happen at some point.
I mean, I wouldn't really want him to be my backup. I agree. I think someone will have him as a reclamation possibility. But again, Liam Cohen has seen and has elicited his best. So maybe that's a conversation for a different day. Glad we could talk about something different.
I mean, I kind of feel bad. I mean, I just took an unnecessary shot at him for all he was doing was watching a hockey game.
Poor guy's just trying to
Poor
drink a
guy's
beer
just
at the
trying to
hockey
live his
game.
life, and I had to get one
Yeah.
last little dig in there.
Yes, you did.
Really kind of unprofessional on my part.
No, I mean it's fine. You're forgiven.
In all seriousness, in the Sanders Ward discussion, you're going to be hard pressed to look at all these draft gurus and all the mock drafts coming out. And again, is that the be all end all? No, it's not. But you're going to be hard pressed to find Cam Ward in any of these little mock drafts making his way out of like the top 3 of the top 5. Sanders is a little bit more all over the map. Like Sanders, I've seen Sanders at 2. I've seen Sanders at 3. I've also seen Sanders at like 12. Like it's just weird how it does feel like when this whole thing started, and maybe this is just me reading too much into it. It felt like they were like neck and neck. There was the conversation of who's better, Ward or Sanders. And it feels like there's been some separation there as people have looked into the film.
I think that's fair. I do think that there are some teams that are, even though I think it's dumb, I think that the all the stuff that comes with the last name is a negative for Shedeur with some teams. Again, I think that's a bad way to do business. I don't care if Dion whines about me from his press conference in Colorado because his kid, whatever. They're not he's not getting enough protect. Okay, great. Yeah, it is a parent with a microphone, but I don't think that really matters. It's not going to affect the locker room. But yeah, the Shedeur Sanders is going to, I could see him falling. He could be, we've had a lot of drafts where there's the quarterback you expect to go someplace, and then the camera stays on him. Aaron Rodgers,
Will Levis.
Will Levis for sure. Brady Quinn was a guy who fell way past what people thought was going to happen with him. Yeah, I mean, Will Levis, again, talked about as the number 1 pick, certainly talked about as a top 5 pick, certainly talked about as a top half of the first round pick. Of course he's a first round pick, and he doesn't go in the first round. That was a pretty extreme example. I don't think that'll happen with Shedeur. I mean, I think he'll go in the first round, and he'll go in the first round because he's a good quarterback prospect. I think I've said all along, I think his floor is higher than Ward's, but yes, the film on Ward is the highlight. If you just take the highlights and get rid of the lowlights, it's eye-popping.
We'll have the Rob rant coming up next. I got some things to say about growing cowardice in the world of sports.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Hey, Mike, how many times have you fallen asleep on the plane?
I mean, this should actually be a Kaharski.
You know, the last guy apparently had a problem with that. Can you stay awake on the plane?
You're really detailing some great decisions here. You got more?
Right.
Right. Like sometimes
the
that's
point of
not
this-
the right way to
Hush!
go about it. Thank you, Robby. God.
I agree with that.
Well, okay, let's talk about
Take his whack. It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant here on the program. You can check it out every morning here on the show. You already got a Rex Rant today, unscheduled. Now you're going to get mine.
Let's do it.
All right. So, kind of lost in what's going on in the world of sports right now. If you're a Tennessee fan, you saw, I think it was last week, that Nebraska came out and they canceled their home series with Tennessee in 2026, 2027. So, Tennessee and Nebraska, two staples of college football, Joe, in the 90s. We're supposed to play at each other. It's one of those, non-conference games that fans get excited about and they look forward to. And Nebraska pulled the plug. It really upset Danny White. He took to Twitter right after it happened. It was like, well, make sure you know Tennessee's not the one that did this. We did not cancel this. And Danny White was talking about that on Twitter. So I thought about it time. I was like, okay, well, Nebraska, who'd they replace it with? Bowling Green? I was like, okay, so Nebraska doesn't want to play Tennessee, or are they just looking at their schedule right now and saying, we just don't feel like we're in a spot right now where that makes sense. Sometimes things happen money-wise and programs do that. So you kind of leave some room open for, different situations that may arise. And then Matt Rule got on the podcast with Urban Meyer. What's this stupid podcast called?
Triple Option.
Triple Option with Urban Meyer. And he said, I think the part that we've been waiting for coaches and in the back of our minds have known that some coaches believe this and think this way. I don't know that I've ever heard a coach actually say it after his program has canceled games. Here was the quote that he put out there on the Triple Option podcast. Quote, this is Matt Rule. Why would you ever play those games? If we're being completely honest, Coach Meyer, I'm at the point in my career, in my fourth job, getting fired from the NFL. I kind of say what I feel nowadays. I could care less. First off, we got a problem there. Secondly, why in the world would a Big Ten team who's already playing 9 conference games, why would you ever play in one of those games? Now, Rexrode, when we had, the conversation after the 12-team playoff was named, you had Nick Saban out there screaming about strength of schedule. And people were yelling about Indiana getting in the college football playoff and all these different things. And I thought to myself, I swear, if this turns into people just being terrified to schedule good, compelling non-conference football games, I'm going to lose my mind. And here we are with Nebraska running away from Tennessee in 2026 and 2027. Hey, Matt, why would you play one of these games? You are allowed to win these games. When you play these games, these big non-conference games, you're actually allowed to compete, and you're actually allowed, if you got good enough players and you're a good coach and you can build a roster, you're actually allowed to win some of these non-conference games that can really help you in the long run here. You wrote an interesting piece on this at The Athletic. I'll let you speak on this here momentarily to get your thoughts on it. But, Georgia beat the absolute tar out of Clemson last year to begin the season. I think that probably helped them at the end of the year. So when you're throwing it out there, why would you play these games? I understand, I've moved past the expectation of college football coaches and athletic directors really caring what's about, what's best for the fans. I think that went out the window a long time ago. But why would you play? It could help you, You are allowed to win some of these games that you play, you absolute coward, Matt Rule.
Well done. Yeah, I mean, it's like I guess in a way I appreciate that he was willing to say it, but it was a little bit. If you watch the podcast, it's like Urban Meyer. Well, first of all, Urban Meyer's like, I'm concerned about not only schedule, but then Urban totally agrees with him too. But even as he starts to say it, Matt Rule's over there like, how? Why would it's like, man, is this how people think? Now, a couple of things. One, I do think that there's a thing with Big Ten coaches with the SEC saying, hey, You guys start playing 9 games in your league like we do, okay? And then we're on an equal playing field. And then let's do the same thing scheduled. So I think that could be some of it in play. But still, I mean, he canceled the Tennessee game, like you said. I mean, Nebraska fans are getting like Houston Christian, Bowling Green, Akron. I mean, like they're getting nothing. They're getting home games. Now, if you're a Nebraska fan, does that make you upset? I say it should, but we know what it is. If you win and you get into the playoff, then great. It was smart. He also killed the spring game. He said he doesn't want people watching his players out there. Sounds cowardly to me too on that front. But, it's like, again, if you win, then all these decisions look good to Nebraska fans. I'm worried about it too. And to me, there's a couple things here in terms of like where it could go. One, there's the Big Ten SEC cowards, speaking of that word, who want to do this auto bid garbage. 4 auto bids for the Big Ten, 4 auto bids for the SEC, 2 for the Big 12, 2 for the ACC. They'll say, see, now, if we do this, now you can schedule those games, and as long as you do well enough in your conference, you're getting to the playoff anyway. But if I'm a coach, I'm saying, well, now if I do those games, I have no incentive to get anybody hurt in those games. I think it's a terrible idea. What this comes down to is the selection committee has to actually reward teams. I think you're right. I think they did. I think they rewarded them. I think Texas winning at Michigan still helped Texas. Texas was overrated all year. Why? I think the win at Michigan carried more weight with the committee than like we thought it should. But there's an example of playing a game like that, winning it, and establishing yourself right at the beginning of the season. You are one of the best teams. But the committee needs to formally and mathematically, to me, reward scheduling like that and penalize bad scheduling. In Indiana, they did play 3 crap teams last year. So I argued they should be in, but that's where we get into a little bit of conflict, right? I mean, we can't have the TV people lose their minds. We can't have Septembers with no good games.
No. I mean, again, this is a situation where a combination of self-preservation and greed is ripping this sport apart. And is it going to ever have a tangible effect on it? I don't know. I mean, the TV ratings are still great. People seem to really like the 12-team playoff.
So let's change it again. Yeah, so let's change it right away.
Let's just keep changing it, I guess. But like, I just think, like, if that's your way of thinking, like, why would we ever do this? Like, that kind of tells me you're a loser. Like, that tells me without telling me that you're just expecting to lose those games. It's like, why would you do it? So you win, and you got a very good win to point to at the end of the season and say, hey, look who we beat. That's why you do it. It's just such a loser comment from Matt Rule.
It's a non-competitor comment. And again, it goes in line with these auto bids thing. It's just ridiculous. So I'm glad you brought that up, though, and said the way you did, because another thing he said was, I mean, hey, the same day, he pointed out, the same day Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois and we beat Colorado. We got a huge win over Colorado. And then he's like, and at the end of the year, they got in and we didn't. I'm like, yeah, because they didn't lose again, and you got smoked by, like, Indiana beat you by 1,000,000. That's why you didn't get in. Like, you're trying to take that one-day data point and try to make a contrast. If the Colorado win would have helped you if you did anything at all last season, you didn't. Yeah.
I mean, what was their record at the end?
7-5, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So great. Yeah, it's true. If you're a mediocre team, whether you play one of those games or not, you will not get in.
Right.
We can all agree with that one.
We can all agree. Hey, look, maybe that's just what he thinks they're going to be moving forward. I don't know. Maybe he feels like he's reached his ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, like Jackson here says, Clemson made the playoff for getting hammered by Georgia. To your point. And again, yeah. So Clemson.
Clemson also won a college championship.
That's the only way they got in.
Right.
So, and I like auto bids for champions. That's fine.
Yeah. Just seed it.
Keep it to that. And Rule, of course, again, going with him. So in his mind, well, there's no way we're going to get that auto bid in this league. Yeah. So, right.
Just loser comments from Matt Rule. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. We'll get back into the Titans, the NFL Combine. Some news coming out on the quarterback front, which we'll get to coming up next as well. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Friday morning. We're normally joined by TD at this time on Friday mornings. We caught up with TD earlier in the show. He was with us in the 6 o'clock hour. If you missed it, go check it out wherever you get your podcast. Search Robby and Rexrode or go to GameNashville.com. We'll have that up for you. Joe, some news on the quarterback front to monitor today and over the next few days. Diana Rossini put it out there earlier this morning that the Rams are set to meet with Matthew Stafford at their facility in person today regarding his future. According to her, both the Raiders and the Giants have discussed a 2-year contract for Matthew Stafford that includes $90 to $100 million guaranteed, and that a decision is expected to be made here pretty soon. Now, Jordan Raanan, who covers the Giants for ESPN, put it out there earlier this morning, quote, "The prevailing thought around the league over the past 24 hours is that the Giants are underdogs for Matthew Stafford, not for lack of an effort, but he would describe them as underdogs, which would presume that the Raiders are the favorite." What do you make of the Stafford news and the decision that, according to Rossini, could be coming here pretty quickly?
Well, Brian Daboll, you got to go out, go to Montana, bring your skis, and just hope you bump into somebody sometimes, you know. Tom Brady just has crazy luck that you don't have. Sorry, my friend. It's interesting because obviously I wonder, like, does the brother-in-law thing, does that significantly impact the math on this?
Maybe
I mean, some people don't like their brothers-in-law.
Maybe it's impacting it a lot.
Yeah, maybe it's like, hell no. That dude eats all the mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving. No, thank you.
Stay away from that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And just the Rams part of this is interesting too. You know, I just, again, Graziano up here talking about Aaron Rodgers as a backup plan. Stilly, you know, the Darnold lover that he is convinced that this is all because the Rams want Darnold, that their plan is, thank you, Matthew. We're going to take the younger guy who fits in this offense and had a really good year. He may be right.
Would Graziano float out there earlier that Rodgers could end up in LA?
He floated out there that Rodgers could be the choice if Stafford doesn't come back. But I mean, it sounds like the Rams, it sounds like Stillman's wrong, or anybody who thought that the Rams were totally like, this is all because they just want him gone. It sounds like they're wrong. I mean, it sounds that way. I guess we'll just see how it plays out. I guess if he ends up elsewhere, then
if you really don't want him to go, he doesn't have to go.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Look, he is getting underpaid. I mean, objectively speaking, I don't see how anybody can look at that situation and blame Stafford for wanting more money. He should get more money. Yeah, at this point, where he is, what he did last year, how they did last year, how close they were to beating the Eagles, the eventual champs on the road, and what he still has as a quarterback. I feel like the Rams are coming, man, and they had such a great offseason last year. You know, I feel like they got a real chance here, and I don't know why you would want to mess that up. Sure. I mean, I guess Stafford's wife is annoying. But
I have to think they've got a plan, a contingency plan here. It's hard for me to believe that they are just going to sacrifice the quarterback position and have some huge drop off. Now, look, is it just as simple as you don't want to pay all that money the next 2 years for the quarterback position? Maybe, but you also want to win, right? So you've got to have some sort of contingency plan if you're them, if you're serious about moving on from Stafford.
Yeah, and I just don't see how the plan is draft. I don't see how the plan is Rodgers. I mean, Darnold, I could see after the way he played last year, I could see that being a topic of conversation, potentially.
I mean, I was Rodgers in that offense would be interesting. I mean, it's an offense that he's run. I mean, similar to what he had with LaFleur. So, but he's 41. That's the thing.
I just think Stafford's better than him now. And then also you don't get, you get Kelly Stafford's podcast, but do you want to compare that to what you get with Rodgers?
He's turning over a new leaf.
With Rodgers, you get hallucinations.
Dean from Old Hickory says, if the Raiders get Stafford, should they be investigated for tampering? I think this should be seriously looked into. Charles Robinson discussed that yesterday on the show with us. It can't really be tampering if he's been given permission to go out there and seek a contract for another team.
Yeah.
So
what are you talking about, Dean? I mean, Tom Brady's that's out trying to have a nice ski. Okay. Yeah. It's not his fault that, that he happened to run into Matt Stafford
in Montana.
Yeah.
Which is where a lot of people
according to Rappaport, Rappaport's reporting on this, he looked into this. And according to him, a lot of rich people have houses up there, and these things just seem to happen.
You wouldn't believe the population of Montana this time of year.
Yeah, and Brady's agent, no,
Billings is a fine town.
But in all seriousness, Dean, I mean, that's what it comes down to is that publicly Stafford was given the permission to go out there and do stuff like that, or accidentally do stuff like that.
Right. So I mean, the NFL's commented on this. It's not going to be tampering. Like they're not going to look into it for tampering because of that. So I understand the thought, because honestly, that was my first thought too. Was Brady allowed to do that? And I was like, oh wait.
Yeah. And of course, McVay and Stafford has an incredible knack for meeting people on vacation.
He really does.
Who eventually then employ him.
Probably needs a, if he's looking to avoid people, get a better planner out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe go to like Stilly's resort.
Yeah.
Or, hanging out with Stilly, at least people wouldn't complain about tampering.
But it does kind of feel like the Stafford domino falling one way or the other, wherever he ends up, is kind of the first step here in the quarterback market. You brought up, the reporting that's been out there. Like, so if you're Brian Daboll and you're the Giants, that you're going to have to show some meaningful progress this year if you're going to want to hold on to your jobs. And that's a general manager, that's a head coach, that's all of it. So if it's not going to be Stafford, is there another veteran quarterback that kind of catches your eye out there? Or from the Titans' perspective, does that make the New York Giants more desperate if they don't land Stafford to try to move up to number one and get one of the quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, based on reporting this week, it sounds like that could be plan B. And it is interesting from the coach GM perspective, because now you're talking about a rookie QB. I suppose, does that just buy you more time automatically, you hope? Because, okay, I mean, if you show, maybe you don't have a huge bottom line uptick, but the QB looks good, you show that, like, this is going to be good. Like, this kid can play. Let's go with this. We had a good year with him, so let's keep it going. I mean, I could see maybe you split up coach and GM on that. Who knows?
No.
I mean, the safe play is to get a Stafford if you're them and win. But, quarterback of the future. And look, I mean, there are teams or owners who don't want different timelines. They don't want to like bring in a rookie to a guy who is known as a quarterback developer and then immediately change things on him. So it could buy you more time if you do that. So obviously that's great for the Titans. If they can go down to 3, get a little bit extra draft capital, and still get one of those guys. Although some people don't want one of those guys now because he has a stress reaction.
Take your thoughts on Matthew Stafford, the quarterback situation. Plus, both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are speaking at the NFL Combine right now. So we'll get into
the
that
same freaking time, which is pretty stupid
as well. Nationals Best Deal this week from Barrio Burrito Bar in Murfreesboro. At Barrio Burrito Bar, every bite a celebration of fresh ingredients, vibrant spices, and bold flavors dancing on your taste buds like a fiesta in your mouth. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals and get half off a $25 gift card while supplies last. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. A shout out to Barrio Burrito Bar out there. Dennis says this show is like a fiesta in his ears. That's what we're here for.
Hey, there we go.
That's what we're here for.
We've had some loud noisemakers today at the party.
We have. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are currently speaking at the NFL Combine, Joe, apparently at the same time. So there's that's taking place. Cam Ward and our friend Andrew threw this out there on Twitter. Cam Ward says being the number one pick, quote, doesn't mean nothing. You got to show up every day to compete regardless of where you're picked. I kind of like that. Now, you got some people out there that say, hey, number one pick, very important to me. I love it. Travis Hunter was like, it's very important to me to be the number one pick. Either way you answer it, I'm kind of cool with. But apparently Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders going at the same time here. We'll see what happens. Can confirm they've both met with the Titans, so good to know.
Got a quote. Yeah, thank you. Got a quote from Shedeur here. It says, quote, we went from Jackson State to Colorado and changed 2 programs back to back. You don't think I could come to an NFL franchise and change a program again? It's history. It's always going to repeat itself. And honestly, listen, man, if you don't like Shedeur Sanders, that's fine. I'm not guaranteeing he's going to be I wouldn't predict him to be a great quarterback. I think he'll be a good quarterback in the NFL. I think he's a safe prospect with a high floor. I don't know how high the ceiling is. But like stuff like Stilly, he didn't win. What he did at Colorado was the worst program in college football. The worst program. Was it all Shedeur? No, I mean it helped to have Travis Hunter on that team too. They had some good players. They had a terrible offensive line the last years. They have not been able to build a decent offensive line. And Shedeur Sanders produced at a high level and won. He won at Colorado. Yeah, he didn't win it all at Colorado. Do you really want to go through quarterbacks and their wins and losses in college and try to correlate that to NFL success? You'll get destroyed. Let's do it.
Hey, Joe Burrow won a lot in college.
He did.
How
many Alabama? Yeah, Greg McElroy did too.
He did.
Yeah, that worked out great. I mean, you can go through this all up and down the list. Vince Young and Matt Leinart were the absolute kings of the court 20 years ago. I mean, on and on and on. And quarterbacks who are great in the NFL who did not win. Did Josh Allen win and where he was? I have no freaking clue, nor do I care.
Could not tell you. Jay Cutler? He didn't win a whole lot.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of wins. Now, Jay Cutler, I mean, not that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but yeah, there's a lot of wins. It's just it's a ridiculous. Keep it to what it is. What are they as a prospect? But I bet you Sanders today, right now, is probably saying some interesting stuff. I mean, he's going to be wherever he goes. The media core there is going to be very grateful.
I feel like there's and I'm guilty of this. I think the NFL media at large is becoming more and more guilty of this. And the truth of the matter is, at this point in the process, I just don't think we know. But there's people just assuming that the Titans are just not taking either one of these quarterbacks. Like there's just, the Titans aren't going to do it. So they're going to try to trade out of there. Or, the Giants could move up with the Titans to take Cam Ward if they really want to get Cam Ward. So it's all good. It's like, well, what if the Titans really like Cam Ward? Like, I think a lot of Titans fans, I think even me to a certain degree, have kind of like moved past the idea of them drafting one of these quarterbacks. And I don't know, there's just almost, it feels like to me, there's almost too much of an assumption that they're not going to do it, that it makes me wonder, hey, are they getting ready to sit here and draft one of these quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, the tea leaves seem to add up to that they're trading out, but if you're the Titans and that's your intent right now, could it still not change if free agency is a total dud? Like if your intent is not to draft one of them because you have someone in mind, don't get that someone, don't get plan B, then does that possibly come back around to, okay, well then, I'm not saying I like that mindset.
I don't really love that if that's the way they're thinking. Willie and I and D-Mace all got into this big conviction argument a couple of weeks ago. Like, I need you to be convicted with your quarterback pick if you're making it. I don't know that the idea of, we didn't get our guy in free agency that we wanted at quarterback, so I guess we'll take one of these guys. I don't know if that excites me all that much. But I hear you. Like that, I can't discount that being a possibility of happening.
If that's how you say it, I agree. Well, I guess we'll take one. If it's like, man, it's so close, love Cam, but I just think Travis Hunter's a little bit better pick. I agonize it, but we'll go with Travis. And instead it's like, well, we do love Cam Ward, and we don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well,
like how
but
is it like, nah, these quarterbacks, and then it's like, well, okay, fine, we'll take a freaking quarterback. No, then don't do that.
Right.
Do not do that.
But what you just said is exactly why I think there's way too much assuming going on here. They don't have a quarterback. And when you don't have one, like this idea that, they're not taking either one of these guys. It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe not. Like if you're doing your job properly and you don't love them, then you shouldn't take one of these guys. But just when, Kuharski did that piece a couple of weeks ago about like how often does a team who is quarterback needy that's got the number 1 overall pick not take the quarterback? It doesn't happen very often. That doesn't mean you just do it, but I'm just saying like it feels like everybody has just moved past the idea of them taking a quarterback. And that makes me wonder if that's going to happen or not.
I think it's a very fair thing to bring up. Absolutely. So obviously it's simplified if someone really wants to move up and they trade down, and there you go. But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to know just on their big board where those guys are. Like is it Hunter, Carter, and who knows? Maybe it's somebody different. Maybe I mean, I don't know. Crazy things happen in the draft too. Tyler Warren, third on your draft board. I don't know. I mean, that's not the. We all think that these media generated big boards and everything are reality for the NFL. It's based on reporting, but some teams have very different big boards from other teams.
Well, I would love to know. Like I would love to go through an exercise that we'll never be able to go through because it'll never happen. But like, I would love to see every team around the league's big board at the end of the draft and compare it with where the quarterbacks actually end up going in the draft, right? Like, when Buffalo drafted Josh Allen, was he the number 1 guy on their big board when that pick came around? Or did they look at it and say, well, we need a quarterback, so let's just take the quarterback.
Right.
Like, I would love to know how that breaks down throughout the league.
Yeah.
And we'll never know that, obviously.
And I think over time, clear, like that position would absolutely be by far the most overdrafted position, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which teams, and that's the thing. If that's the case, well, it worked out all right for them, like the Ravens when they took Lamar Jackson. I tend to feel like where that happened,
he's probably pretty high.
He probably was pretty high, on the big board.
Yeah.
But talk about a stroke of luck.
Yeah.
My goodness.
32 is where they got him.
Yeah.
I mean, is Cam Ward, is somebody so desperate for a quarterback that Cam Ward might end up being like 8th on your big board, but you take him anyway because he's the quarterback? Like, I do think, I mean, there's a quarterback tax in every other aspect of football. Like, I have to think it applies to the draft as well.
Oh, no
with
question.
some teams.
No question. Yeah. And so that's the thing. It's like, there's a difference within the, okay, we'll take the quarterback. If you're just settling because of the need, you're screwed. If it's so close and you actually really, really like the prospect, it's just, basically between that prospect and another player that you like a little bit better. I don't have nearly as much problem taking the quarterback in that scenario.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Weekend winners coming up next. A doubleheader for the Preds this weekend. Vanderbilt, Tennessee in action. We'll get into that. And a couple individual selections as well. We'll see if Keyser picks another soccer game in a draw. We'll see how that goes. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you. Now
on ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is time for weekend winners here on the program.
Finally.
Boy, a little panic in there. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you. Our first week of weekend winners last week, and let me tell you, you guys may have got me a pigskin pick'em, which I guess we need to go eat at some point. But you're screwed in weekend winners.
Yeah,
I'm coming
look at
back with
you.
a vengeance. I'm in first place, 4-2, 1-0 on my locks, 5 points. Rexrode 3-3, also got his lock, good for 4 points. Nick Keyser 3-3, did not get his lock, good for 3 points.
Last place.
Read it and
How's
weep.
Feel.
I'm in first place after 1 week of the competition that lasts for
Last week's a wash. I just want to
4 or 5
forget it.
months.
I really just want to leave it alone.
Okay.
No, I don't want to touch it. Just leave it
I
alone.
was going to go through all your picks. Okay.
Nah, that's
All your
okay.
Wrong picks.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to kick us off because, I'm in first place. The Predators taking on the New York Islanders tomorrow. Game number 1 of a doubleheader. They're in Long Island tomorrow. They're taking on the Rangers on Sunday. I'll begin with a game against the Islanders. Straight up, give me the New York Islanders to win this game. Nice win for the Preds last night. I think they fall. The defense I just don't trust right now. And that was probably with Roman Josi. Even without Roman Josi, which I would be surprised at this point if he's playing on this road trip. I think the Islanders will be able to score in this game. So give me the Islanders over the Predators tomorrow night. Joe Rexrode, who you got?
Same. Yeah. The win over the Jets was actually almost too predictable, but going back to losing is also somewhat predictable.
And by the way, I said tomorrow night. It's not tomorrow night. It's at 11:30 tomorrow. I have your pregame at 10:30. So make sure you tune into that.
Fine.
Nick Keyser, Islanders and Predators. Who you got?
It's another back-to-back. I think they started off with a win, though.
There you go. Going with the Preds. That would be 2 in a row for the Preds if they're able to get it. Joe, a big one coming up this weekend. Alabama and Tennessee in Knoxville. This game has implications potentially for number 1 seeding across the NCAA tournament here. We begin with you, Rexrode. Who you have between Alabama and Tennessee?
Tennessee and making my lock.
Woo!
They match up well with Alabama. They have not matched up as well. Like this year, the new Kentucky is giving them all kinds of problems.
Guaranteed.
But they match up well.
Thanks,
And
Nick.
I think at home that they're going to get this done. And they are going to be right there for a number 1 seed.
Nick on a 30-second delay in this segment. What's going on in there?
I was trying to find a clean pocket, but yeah, I had to move around a few things.
Okay, I'm just checking. Keyser, Tennessee and Alabama. Who you got?
I'm going to go. I was trying to think about this one during the break a little bit more, but I'm going to go with Tennessee, and I'm going to also make this my lock as well. Tried to think about making the Vols my lock last week, but didn't do it. So,
Joe, I'm planning on watching this game. So you know what that means.
Oh, boy. It's March.
Tennessee screwed. Alabama wins in this game. They get a big win on the road. I will blame myself and then will not watch until tournament time.
Okay.
But I think Alabama's going to win. I've had the feeling all week that Alabama wins on the road. Nick Keyser, Missouri and Vanderbilt tomorrow. In another big one for Vanderbilt. They've had 2 huge wins for them in a row. Who you got in this one?
they do, but I think they come to a halt this weekend. I think that they will lose to the Tigers.
Going with Missouri in this matchup. Joe, I will also take Missouri in this matchup against Vanderbilt. Who you got between Vandy and Mizzou?
See, now I feel like I want to change because I also have Missouri, but I'll stick with it. Missouri is really good. Vanderbilt, I think, punched their ticket with the win at Texas A&M this week, and they're really tough at home. This is going to be a fun one, but Missouri is really good. And this could be a SEC Coach of the Year off between Mark Byington and Dennis Gates.
The Nashville Predators closing out the weekend with the trip to Madison Square Garden to take on Peter Laviolette and the New York Rangers. I'll start on this one. This is an interesting race in the Eastern Conference here. There's a whole bunch of teams that are just kind of jumbled right there together. It's pretty wide open in the Eastern Conference. The Rangers are 4 points out of a playoff spot right now. They need it. I think they get it. Give me the Rangers in this matchup against the Predators. Joe Rexrode, who you got between the Preds and Rangers?
Same. New York State of mind. Preds swept out of the weekend in New York.
Nick Keyser, New York Rangers, Nashville Predators coming up on Sunday.
I mean, I don't want to be like the rest of the show, but I do think they will lose against the Rangers. They have been a roller coaster this year, but I don't think the Preds come out of the weekend with a win.
They have certainly been a roller coaster. There's no doubt about that. Joe Rexrode, your first individual selection.
All right. Those squirrely Detroit Pistons, winners of 8 in a row, just blew out the Celtics. Got the Nuggets at home, and the Pistons are -1.5. So at first I actually was going to like, man, that's they're going to fall hard at some point, right? But you know what? Give me the Pistons. -1.5 at home against the Nuggets. They are absolutely rolling.
That line, not surprised. Is Jokic playing?
No, it is surprising. And it's surprising I would give points.
Yeah,
but I'm going to do it. It's early.
I like it. Give me the Minnesota Wild +1.5 against the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado is trying to figure some stuff out right now. They've gotten Nichushkin back in the lineup, and they're way better when he's in the lineup. It kind of woke Casey Middlestad up the other night. But I still think John Hines got a little scrap in him right now. I'll take the Wild +1.5 against the Avalanche. Nick Keyser, your first individual selection.
Well, I had that game too, but I would like to do something different, Robbie. So let me pick a different game real quick. I mean, it is a pretty, yeah, but I have the same pick. I want to change it up a little bit. We've got the Stadium Series this weekend, so I don't know the line because I already got rid of my page.
1.5.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with the Red Wings this weekend. They lost last night, but I think they bounced back this weekend at the Ohio State Stadium.
Red Wings -1.5 in that game. So the Red Wings the favorite in the Stadium Series. I'm interested. Apparently, like 90,000 people are going to be at that one in Columbus. So there you go.
That'll be quite a spectacle.
Rexrode, your final individual selection.
So I'm going to, off that Celtics Pistons blowout, huge game tonight. Cavs at Celtics. This is, potentially an Eastern Conference final preview. And I think the Celtics, having been embarrassed in Detroit, are going to roar back and win this one. They are -2.5. Give me the Celtics -2.5.
One with Boston -2.5 against Cleveland. Nick Keyser, your final individual selection.
Oh, I already threw away my paper. No, I'm just kidding.
That
But
would not at all surprise me.
this weekend, I'm not going with another soccer game. But I'm trying to think of what.
What are you going with?
Yeah, I did throw it away. I'm just trying to kill time.
He
I
was
definitely
kidding
did.
that he was kidding.
Yeah,
He wasn't kidding.
Well, when I heard, never mind. I had a brain fart when I was making my picks. And yes, I threw it away. But look, I do remember what I wrote down. Okay,
good.
I got it. Sorry. There's a lot going on back here today.
What did you pick?
The Memphis Grizzlies taking down the New York Knicks this weekend. And yes, that is a game that's happening. I remember it.
Is there a line?
It's
It's
-1.5
-1.5
because my pick is the exact opposite.
Oh,
So Grizzlies are -4?
Grizzlies
Correct.
are -4. Give me the Knicks plus the 4 against the Grizzlies and make it my lock.
Whoa.
I'm locking down. A
spicy.
little concerning that, I have to assume Keyser, before he chucked his paper in the trash, actually picked this game, but we had the same individual picks.
I did.
Same games.
My
Same
intern's
games.
back here.
different
He
day.
knows I wrote it down. I promise.
Keyser just giving up on the segment.
Man. That was
One
something.
week. He's
That
in last
segment-
place 1 week in the competition, and he just folds it in.
Yeah. Tell you a little bit of, you got to handle that adversity, man.
I
Gotta
think I
handle a
need
little
my
bit of
pizza to
adversity.
fuel me up a little bit.
Oh, that's a fair point.
Yeah, we're going to make that happen. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We will wrap up the show coming up next, and we'll get into a smorgasbord of topics heading into the weekend. We will get into Tennessee, Alabama. Big one coming up this weekend. We'll get into some Preds thoughts I have as we are now officially, Joe, 1 week away from the NHL trading deadline, and more news from the NFL Combine as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service.
So we had the, Vrabel tweets out the picture with Kaharski crashing his little bar, fest last night. And I tweeted out, turd in the punch bowl. I responded to Vrabel, and then Kaharski responded, OHIO. That was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
But Big Orange Mac has weighed in. Well, Vrabel asked the question, right? Vrabel asked the question of which one of these guys asked a lot of annoying questions of the Vrabel fan club, including Kaharski. Big Orange Mac says, that carpet bagging bleep in the middle? Well done, Big Orange Mac. Way to weigh in. Got to have him on at some point. We're going to
friend of the show.
Man, we're gonna have Big Orange Mac on for does he care enough about hoops to have him on before the NCAA tournament or something like that?
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he's a football guy,
yeah,
but he loves Tennessee sports, right?
Sure.
I mean, you get into hoops finally once we get to the calendar flipping tomorrow.
About third or fourth round of the tournament, yeah.
Yeah. There you go. If they get to the Sweet 16, I guess
that's when I really start to get into it. Speaking of that, big one tomorrow, Alabama and Tennessee. What do you make of the matchup? How big is this game as it relates to the 1 seed line, what that could look like moving forward for both teams, and how do you view this matchup in Knoxville?
Yeah, it's big for the ones that's it's their one meeting. Obviously, anybody could meet anybody in Nashville next week. So that could obviously impact all this, but it's the one known meeting between Alabama and Tennessee. And it's not like head to head is, it's not like head to head. These teams are playing each other, and then whoever wins gets the seed. But right now on my seeding, I have Alabama 4th. I have Tennessee 6th because I have Houston moving ahead of Tennessee. Now, Houston is a real threat here for a 1 seed. And the way they're playing, they are dominating the Big 12. They just won the league going away. So, that's a huge factor to keep in mind here. I think Auburn and Duke are locked in. But, Florida just lost to Georgia. And Florida's non-league is very underwhelming compared to these teams. So Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, at least one of those teams are going to get a 1 seed. And if Tennessee beats Alabama, then to me, I move them ahead of Alabama. You look at their resumes; they're very, very close at any angle you want to look. So a Tennessee win to me inches them past Alabama, and they're right there. It might move Houston into a 1 at the moment, but yeah, they're right there. So if you're Tennessee, you're a Tennessee fan, you're rooting against Houston, you're rooting against Florida and Alabama, and obviously you're rooting for your own team, and the first number 1 seed in school history could be possible here.
The NHL trading deadline, 1 week from today. We'll see if there's some movement that starts for the Predators this weekend. I mean, I asked Gus Nyquist after the game last night, who has been traded at the deadlines a couple times before. This is a big week. I have a feeling you might be on the move. So he's basically like, I get it. It's a business. We'll see what happens here. But I would expect he's probably going to be on the move. We'll see what happens with Michael McCarron, Luke Shin, those type guys. The interesting one to me that I don't think is overly interesting right now that I think about it, but I do wonder if somebody approaches Barry Trotz with a significant offer, what he would do. Ryan O'Reilly. Is there somebody out there that's desperate enough for Ryan O'Reilly where they make it interesting with an offer to Barry Trotz? I can tell you, Ryan O'Reilly doesn't want to go anywhere. And Barry Trotz has talked about him basically being treated as if he has a no movement clause, even though he doesn't. So the likelihood is that Ryan O'Reilly is going to be here through the trade deadline. He will be on the team next year, and then you get to kind of see from there. But the one thing that you can never say never in this business, and I wonder if somebody looks at Ryan O'Reilly and says, we got to have him. He's the piece to where he can go win a Stanley Cup with, and we're willing to give up significant assets to go get him.
Yeah, that's interesting. To me, I understand this is not the year to say it, but I think he's an important guy to have in the locker room. And, obviously he's aging. As Barry Trotz said when they acquired him, he's a guy that he sees him, kind of moving down the lineup, but still bringing value. And I just think that guy has got the right stuff. And so whatever happens, whatever you change, whatever it looks like next year. If I'm the Preds, I want Ryan O'Reilly a part of it. It's almost not the exact same, but it's kind of how I feel about Harold Landry. If it can work out financially, I don't know why you wouldn't want him around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they view that. And in the meantime, can you get significant assets for anybody else? Like, what's Nyquist going to fetch? 4th round, maybe? Somewhere around there. There are people that are throwing the idea out there, depending on the team and how desperate they get, that a guy like Michael McCarron, like, could you actually end up getting more back for him than you would Nyquist? I think most Predators fans would say, no. And I get that. But, like, the way he plays, big-bodied centerman, wins a lot of face-off, very good penalty killer. Sometimes people overpay for those guys.
And sometimes that's exactly what is needed.
Right.
For the particular, the team in question.
So, he's obviously pretty inexpensive. Sissons, does like somebody have interest in Sissons? Elliot Friedman.
We talk about Sissons like every year.
We do.
Whenever they're selling.
Elliot Friedman was on with DVD yesterday and brings up an interesting point that I think does affect the Predators. There are a lot of centermen available at the deadline. Now, not a lot of great centermen available at the deadline, but a lot of centermen, your Braden Shens of the world. Like I think there's a pecking order that the Predators, it probably takes a minute to get down to some of their guys. And I'm interested to see how that affects the potential price at the deadline.
So Big Sexy may be moving on, huh?
We'll see. I mean, what's the reaction going to be if they don't do much of anything at the deadline? Like it's just Nyquist.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
May not be able to do much more.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the reaction should be like anger.
Yeah. We'll just see how things play out there.
But something's going to happen.
Something is going to happen.
If Nyquist is on this team after next week, I'll be
stunned. Yeah, I will be stunned. Joe, your final thoughts on an unfortunate time for you where your favorite week of the year is wrapping up with the NFL Combine. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun to visit through that this week, to react to some of the headlines. And here we are, the end of the week here.
Hey, we'll be back on Monday. We'll have more testing to talk about. We'll have more people talking about things to talk about. So don't worry. We're not done with our Combine
potentially
content.
More confrontations in coffee shops.
Let's hope. Right now, I don't know if they're done. They're probably done. Yeah,
I believe they're done.
Yeah. So Ward and Sanders, what will be the prevailing takeaways from them? Yeah, and by the way, just have a little bit of give a crap about your media, NFL. How many people wanted to be both things? What are we doing here? You're just going to try to treat everything like we don't know the score of who's possibly getting drafted? That's pretty silly.
We'll see what happens.
The NFL does a lot of things that I find silly.
They do. That does it for us today. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll be back Monday morning, 6 a.m. Jason, Big Joe up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3, The Game.